Robert Jenrick's here for us, the Shadow Justice Secretary. That's a free hit for you, isn't it?
Well, look, I want to see all of these industrial action problems solved. Look what the Labour government have done in their 5 months. They gave a £10,000 pay rise to already well-paid train drivers, people who might be earning £60,000, £70,000 a year, without settling those strikes. And not surprisingly, if you give all that money to the train drivers, other people who are working on our railways expect the same treatment as well. They've massively messed this up. The people who are going to be paying the price for this, people who use the trains, the passengers, and we, the broader taxpayer. This is part of a pattern of mismanagement of industrial relations by this government.
I said it was a free hit. I did put it to the Minister, and we heard her reply there. Farmers with their tractors bringing Whitehall to a standstill later on. Do you support that?
Absolutely. Good for them. I mean, look, they are facing this utterly iniquitous, frankly cruel family farm tax. You've got farmers. These are not wealthy people. These are people who have a couple of hundred acres, had always expected to hand their farm on to their children and their grandchildren. And now, as a result of what Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have done in the budget, are fearful. They don't know what the future holds for them and their farm. And this should matter to all of us, because these people are the guardian of our food security, of our countryside. They are the linchpin of rural communities, and they deserve our support. There is still time for Rachel Reeves to change her mind, to reverse this family farm tax and have a sensible approach where, yes, you do close loopholes for the super wealthy, but you protect ordinary farmers who are doing a good job for our country.
Would you support them interrupting food security?
No, I don't want to see that happen. Of course I don't. Neither do farmers.
No, we had the farmer who's organised this, today's protest on, and she said that's what she would do if this doesn't come to anything, that she would stop sending food to supermarkets for a while to make the point.
Well, she is at liberty to do that. I don't want to see farmers do that, but I want to protect their interests, because their interests are ours as well. You know, we need to have food security in this country, and we need to be able to hand on farms down the generations, as we always have. This is frankly just a tax which is born of the politics of envy, which I hate. I think most people in this country hate as well. And it's born out of a complete disregard for rural communities. You look at the Environment Secretary. He represents an urban community in Croydon. He didn't even own a pair of wellies. He had to go and get them off.
Fair now, though.
Well, by Lord Ali, yes. So a Conservative donor, sorry, a Labour donor, excuse me, gave him his wellies. But we laugh about it, but that shows they don't know anything about rural communities, and yet they're weighing in, taxing farmers out of existence, harming our food security.
OK, but it's not just about inheritance tax. They also say it's about several matters while you guys were in charge, and you were no friends of the farmers either.
Well, I obviously would dispute that. I mean, I represent a rural community. You know, this is a tax we would never have done. In fact, when I was a Treasury Minister, Treasury officials suggested this to myself and the then Chancellor, Philip Hammond. We immediately said this does not make any sense. It's going to cause havoc for farmers, so we didn't proceed with it.
And you were in power in March.
Look, this tax is something which prior chancellors, frankly Labour chancellors as well, had considered, had always said no to, because they knew how harmful it would be for farming and for the ability of farmers to pass on their assets down the generations, maintain the continuity that we need to manage the countryside appropriately. Rachel Reeves didn't think it through. She went ahead with it. I'm sure she's regretting it now. What she needs to do is U-turn as soon as possible.
It's not just about that tax. As you know, back in March, the farmers demonstrated. They had a campaign group called Save British Farming and Fairness for Farmers of Kent, and they were calling for an end to imports, which they claim produce lower animal welfare and environmental standards. You guys were in power then.
Well, we can debate, for example, free trade agreements that have been signed in recent years. I actually do think it's important that we sign free trade agreements with other countries around the world, whether that's Australia, New Zealand. But of course, what we want to do is maintain the high standards that we have, and UK farming is known for that. That is what we all want when we go to the supermarkets, and I support every effort to support British farming, and that we should be, wherever possible, buying British when we're out shopping for our Christmas lunch in the weeks ahead.
4 new prisons are going to be built, billions of pounds it's going to cost, 14,000 new spaces. It still won't be enough, says the Justice Secretary. It's all your fault.
No new prisons are being built. Let's be perfectly clear. Despite all the fanfare from the Justice Secretary today, she did not announce money for a single new prison. All she is doing is finishing the prisons that were already being built by the last government. She has admitted today there's going to be a massive shortfall in the number of prison places, and that means dangerous people who should be in jail will be on the streets of our country. Labour are releasing prisoners early.
They had to, because they were so full. In August, they had to let 100 people go.
Kay,
go on.
If I was Justice Secretary, I would not have released those prisoners.
Would you have done?
Over my dead body would dangerous people who should be in jail be out on the streets posing a risk to members of the public.
They weren't dangerous when they were released. That's why they were chosen.
Well,
to be released.
they've actually admitted that they released in error dozens of people who they then had to go and find, get back into jail. The Justice Secretary had to go to Parliament, cap in hand, last week and change her own law because it was riddled with loopholes on things like murder and stalking, really dangerous and important
What would you have
offences.
done if the prisons were full? What would you have done? You have done emergency release previously, haven't you? As a
Well,
government?
I'll tell you what I would do. I would get the 10,500 foreign national offenders out of our prisons, out of our country. That is the number one thing we can do to free up prison capacity. And how do you do that? Use every lever of the British state to put pressure on those other countries to take back their own criminals. Do things like stopping issuing visas. Don't give foreign aid to those countries. If they won't take back their criminals, we shouldn't be supporting them. Those are the sorts of things I would be doing as Justice Secretary. But I would suggest that Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, for ideological reasons, are happy to release these people in a way that I certainly never would be.
You promised 20,000 new spaces during the lifetime of your government. You left with only 6,000 having been built.
No, we actually added 13,500 new places. We did close some of the old Victorian prisons, which were, frankly, not fit for purpose. A net gain of 6,000. And the programme will deliver the further places over the course of the next couple of years. But yeah, I accept that we as a country are not good enough at delivering infrastructure, roads, railways, houses, prisons. We need to be better at that. So changes to the planning system are important. Well, we did deliver more prison places than any prior Labour government in recent years.
Would you build on Greenbelt?
Or would I build a prison on Greenbelt? Yes, I think we need to build more prisons. I want to lock up dangerous people and get them off our streets, particularly as you just heard a moment ago in the prior piece. I want to get these career criminals off our streets, the types of people who are responsible for so-called low-level offences, like nicking your mobile phone, shoplifting, burglary, robbery, these things which are on the rise as general crime rates are falling in our country. We should be bearing down on those people. We're a generous country, Kay. We believe in second chances, but not third, fourth, 50th chances. Over the course of the last 20 years, 50,000 criminals have escaped jail despite having 50 offences to their name. That's got to change.
I don't know those figures, so I'll take them from you. Do you think the government should take Lord Thomas's suggestion of abandoning jury trials on some occasions?
No, I think the jury trial is an ancient liberty of this country, and we should preserve it. The first thing to do before you even consider radical things like that is to get our courts sitting for longer hours. And the Lady Chief Justice, the head of our court service effectively, Baroness Carr, has said that there are 6,500 additional hours that the courts could be sitting for if only... Well, we did actually increase the number of hours. We created things like Nightingale courts after the pandemic.
Yeah.
But she has said more recently that the courts have capacity if only the Justice Secretary would allow them to sit for those extra hours. So step one for Shabana Mahmood is give the money to the Lady Chief Justice, get the court sitting for those extra hours. Because at the moment, Kay, you've got cases of things like rape and sexual assault being listed for 2027 or 28. That's a disgrace, isn't it? Imagine if you were one of those victims.
It's an absolute disgrace.
It is. I don't want to live in a country where victims of rape are having to wait years and years to have their day in court.
What would you do with Syrian asylum seekers that are going through the system at the moment that has been paused, given what's happening in Syria?
Well, in a majority of those cases, they will have rested their asylum claim on the fact that there was a fear of persecution by the Assad regime. Now that that regime no longer exists...
But we don't know what it's been replaced by yet. I mean, there's still a terror organisation.
We don't, and it is obviously, it's an Islamist terror organisation which is highly dangerous. So we don't know what the situation will be like in the months ahead. But what we do know is that many, perhaps most of those asylum cases are now baseless. Now, I suspect that some of those individuals will come forward with new grounds for asylum, arguably spurious ones. So this is a test for our asylum system. How robust is it? They need to be rejecting the asylum cases on the basis of their existing claim, deporting those individuals or organising voluntary returns back home to Syria, and if new claims are put in, subjecting them to the highest degree of rigour, because we can't allow people just to change their case in order to stay in the UK. Okay. The asylum system has to be robust and fair to the British taxpayer.
Before I let you go, I read that you are after my job on a rival channel, is that right?
I can only learn from UK. So
is that a yes or a no?
Look, I'm always keen to find ways of making the case for the things that I believe in, and so I'm going to do a bit of work with GB News in the months ahead.
OK, but, throw us to the break. Read it on camera 24.
You've been doing this for 20 years, Kay. Still to come on The Breakfast Show. There you go. I'll leave you to finish the job.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you, Kay.
You've got the job.